kind of the things we want to go to with next steps to kind of increase that communication um, between family members and their loved ones, but also like that communication gap even with the with the ones that don't have family, right? Um, a lot of times, they get their caregivers, they come to them, they create a relationship with them, and they bond with them, and then something, whether that person has to take on something else, they leave, or but if for whatever reason now that person is kind of left alone again and has to reestablish a relationship with another caregiver. So that turnover, which is very rampant in this industry, because once again, there's no the money isn't really there, so the caregivers aren't paid as well as they should be, and therefore it becomes a very transient job, leaves a lot of our elderly even more vulnerable to um, kind of being in that place where they can be taken advantage of, because they build a trust with someone, they get that companionship, and then that person leaves and they have to build it again. And we see it a lot where it leads to a frustrating cycle for the elderly. So we have to try to find a way to also be like the third person from the agency level, to just kind of make sure that we're keeping them in the loop, we're talking to them, we're speaking to them, so they feel like they can come to us. So that's kind of where we're providing that extra level of support, but that's not really scalable. So herein lies more places where we need to find scalable technical solutions to help bridge those gaps in communication, to make sure everyone stays on the same page and we're supporting each other.
Welcome back to another episode here on the Hart and Hustle. I'm Efrain, and today we have another healthcare leader. So excited! This one here is a business owner. He's a CTO. He is also currently right now a franchise owner to a place at home, and I'm so excited to always highlight other leaders in this space making a difference. Arturo Rosario, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Doing good, Efrain. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, my brother. So I want to get straight to it, man. We don't have too much time. If I meet you at a coffee shop, just for those listeners that are watching right now, if I meet you at a coffee shop, networking event, and I say, Mr. Rosario, what is it that you do and how did you get there? What does that actually sound like? What are you telling people?
It's an interesting question, because I do have a varied path to where I'm at. I spent 25 years in technology, um, most recently in healthcare technology, the past 10 years. And when I went from financial services, where I was working for the big banks and building these great systems for them, and then I went to healthcare, and I realized that the systems I was building was actually
Yeah.
helping people. That kind of flipped my whole being around my professional journey, because once you start actually realizing that your work is being used for good,
Hmm.
it's very fulfilling. It's very exciting. So, it led me down a path of technology leadership in healthcare technology, and then because of that, and the experience that I had working with the elderly population and building tools that allowed them to transition to home, it was kind of a nice segue into the business that we started in with a place at home, which is a home healthcare organization. We send our aides to help seniors live at home or in any other facilities they are, and assist them with a lot of the activities of daily living. So it's a fulfilling and exciting journey. And I still keep my technology there. I'm working as a fractional CTO with a number of different organizations, but
Wow.
doing getting into something that's really fulfilling, really helping others, and putting ourselves out there in that way, is the best part of the journey.
And when it comes to a franchise, man, a lot of people are actually skeptical when it comes about franchising. What was your biggest hesitation, actually? Because I think when we spoke to that first call to just get to know each other, you kind of talked about that hesitation. What kind of changed your mind?
So I had kicked the can on it a little while, a number of years back, and
Yeah.
sometimes franchises are very strict and they're very limited in what you can do. So you're basically a cookie cutter. So you get a brand, and you have to follow everything from A to Z. You have no input as a leader to kind of innovate and do things outside of what's in their playbook. So I was always concerned about that, because in a lot of ways, if you are a business owner, you want to innovate in that space. You want to be able to find new ways to drive the business and kind of improve on things. And what I saw about a place at home, the leadership there was very open about like, hey, we love your ideas. We'd love to, this is what you have to do by rules and regulations. But other than that, you're kind of free to kind of, figure this out however you want. And I
Yeah.
think when you're, and I think that's the part of leadership that a lot of people don't see and that goes across all types of genres, no matter where you're working, no matter what business you're in, is you kind of want to set a goal and kind of let the people guide themselves and just provide that helping hand when needed, because that's where innovation happens. You don't have all the answers, and if you think you do, then you got a lot to learn, right? So you learn
That
a
is
lot.
100% true.
You learn a lot from putting people in the right positions and just letting them fly. And that's kind of where I felt, that a place at home, from a franchise perspective, did with us. And it just was like, here's our playbook. Yes, here's your training. We're going to teach you as much as we can. But hey, go out there and figure out ways how you want to innovate and make this better for all of us. And I think that was very intriguing and exciting when we decided to do that.
You say technology, you're obviously in a space that technology is your thing, right? Innovation is a thing. AI is a thing. Has your organization actually been thinking about how AI could be a tool to help support your clients or maybe help your team do more with less?
I think AI, and I've been that's kind of my bread and butter. I've been building AI tools.
Hmm.
AI started way before OpenAI. We've been doing things for 20 something years in AI, different types of AI expert systems, etc. But it's a complicated. It's definitely complicated in a regulated industry like healthcare. If you think about OpenAI and what they did with ChatGPT,
Hmm.
it was finally putting something very useful in the hands of average humans. So now the average person can go and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, build me a PowerPoint presentation to do this." Fantastic, super powerful, awesome, and
Yeah.
you should be using AI no matter what. Everyone should be using AI to help increase your productivity. It's a great tool for that. But the problem is, if I'm a doctor and I say, "Hey, how do I treat this cancer patient?" and I go by whatever it spits out, I'm now at risk of following something that may not be correct, because AI does have, I mean, if you've used Open ChatGPT, it
Yep.
does have what they call hallucinations, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of liability in there in super regulated industries like healthcare, like legal, things where if you're smart, it's a great tool. You can put it with someone who's very intelligent, who's going to take that input back. It saves them so much time in their day to day, but they have to verify that what it's coming back is accurate, and what is coming back is something that can be used in that right context. So I think that we have a long way to go. I think AI can be used in so many different ways, especially in healthcare, and in home care and working with the elderly, because one of the things that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit is I don't want to segue into there yet, but one of our biggest challenges in the industry is affordability. And
Hmm.
there are the number of seniors in the U.S. is growing exponentially almost. I mean, the baby boomers are coming in, and we have really a very poor support system for them. And I think that AI and technology can definitely help fill a lot of those gaps. But I think we do have some problems to solve around accuracy and around security and privacy. Because I think that one of the things that you can do is you can gather all this data on people, but then who owns that data, right? And what happens with
Hmm.
that data? And
Yeah.
what happens if that data gets into the wrong hands? So, we have HIPAA rules for a reason, to protect people's privacy with healthcare. And I think those are the things that are holding back AI a little bit. I think there's ways we can move this forward and help drive solutions that can bring down the cost of care.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree. It is a. You also talked about the baby boomers. I actually heard something, and I told my wife, and she thought I was lying, but it was something along the lines of, "We're gonna have more baby boomers, right? More people over the age of 65 years old or something like that, than we will have from 18 and under." And she's like, "What are you talking about? You're just talking trash." But I heard it from another leader, just like yourself, that's in this space.
Mhm.
That she's in it now, obviously for the right reasons, but understanding that she's building something because she knows what the next couple of years are going to look like
Yeah.
when we get more people in these homes, and making sure that they're being done right, that they're treated fairly, that there is, innovation to make it better. Do you feel that there's, in your experience, that there's areas of the business that need to be impacted by AI now?
Oh, absolutely. I think we can use AI in a number of ways right now, everywhere from enhancing care to
Hmm.
just providing companionship in a way,
Yeah,
and
bingo.
monitoring. I mean, one of the things that we're going to see when it comes to the price of like home care and why it's not supported through Medicare. Medicaid does a little bit of support. They are there are a ton of people, especially lower income people, that could benefit from just putting an AI tool into someone's home that keeps an eye on them and monitors them. And there are AI tools out there that right now do fall detection and can record sound so that if someone says something, help me, we can send help, stuff
Hmm.
like that. That can at least bridge the gap a little bit. But therein lies that issue with data and privacy, right? You're constantly collecting data on someone. What's
Hmm.
happening with that data? Where is it stored? Who's protecting it? What are they allowed to do with it? So those are some of the issues. But I think we're going to need to use a lot of the AI capabilities of technology to solve a lot of these problems because you know going to the numbers that you're talking about. So it was 57.8 million um, people over 65 in 2023. That number is going to jump to 88.8 million by 2060. So
Lord.
what are we going to, there's not going to be enough care facilities to support all these numbers. More people are going to have to be at home and be living in their homes, getting care provided to them to meet those numbers. But then, how do we support these people at home if there's no way to pay for it? If the government isn't
Yeah.
stepping in to help support, and I think that's going to be a big thing as our boomers age, and like you said, that generation was such a big population, part of our population, and now they're moving into those years where they are going to be the 65 and older group, and we're going to have to really find some creative ways to care for them because the support system in the United States is just not there for our seniors.
100% do agree, man. To think about that number jumps 30 something million.
Yeah,
That's actually pretty crazy.
yeah.
Is there any feedback that you're getting from maybe clients about communication on and how things could be communicated better? Like, I think that's a space where AI could also be utilized, right? It's that communication piece. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you're encountering some of that just kind of being in the space?
Oh, absolutely. I think, one of the things that we try to do and we try to differentiate ourselves from other organizations is that, we try to communicate and over communicate because what happens in a lot of these situations is you have a family member that's really cares about their loved one, but they have a life and they're out there living their life and they have to worry about their own bills and their own things, and they can't constantly check in on their loved one. So having the ability to, so right now we're doing it manually. We're making
Mhm.
sure that, hey, we're taking care logs. Each one of our caregivers every day writes a log. We put it on the portal for our families to see, so they could see, kind of what happens on a day to day. But they're not. It's just very static. It's nothing dynamic there. So we want to get to the point where, hey, maybe we start using some videos. Maybe we start using um, some real recordings of these interactions so they could see their loved one and how they're feeling and on a day-to-day basis, even when they're feeling good and when they're feeling poorly. So
Mhm.
those are kind of the things we want to go to with next steps to kind of increase that communication um, between family members and their loved ones, but also like that communication gap even with the with the ones that don't have family, right?
Yeah.
um, a lot of times they get their caregivers, they come to them, they create a relationship with them, and they bond with them, and then something, whether that person has to take on something else, they leave, or but for whatever reason, now that person is kind of left alone again and has to reestablish a relationship with another caregiver. So that turnover, which is very rampant in this industry, because once again, there's no the money isn't really there, so the caregivers aren't paid as well as they should be, and therefore it becomes a very transient job, leaves a lot of our elderly even more vulnerable to um, kind of being in that place where they can be taken advantage of because they build a trust with someone, they get that companionship, and then that person leaves and they have to build it again, and we see it a lot where it leads to a frustrating cycle for the elderly. So we have to try to find a way to
Hmm.
also be like the third person from the agency level to just kind of make sure that we're keeping them in the loop. We're talking to them. We're speaking to them. So they feel like they can come to us. So that's kind of where we're providing that extra level of support, but that's not really scalable. So
Hmm.
herein lies more places where we need to find scalable technical solutions to help bridge those gaps in communication, to make sure everyone stays on the same page and we're supporting each other.
I love it. When you say the technology piece, actually, I was talking to another leader, and he was mentioning how innovation in AI is going to be in a space where someone can have kind of a stuffed animal that will talk to them because they've got their story downloaded in them. So if they need something, they can actually talk. Hey, do I have an appointment coming up, or hey, tell me about my niece. Like, we're in a space where that is possible. Now, does it take a lot of technology, a lot of work? Yeah, but as you mentioned, our elderly are still human at the end of the day. They're still living. They still need that loving and that caring. And I love that people like yourself get into this space because you truly care, not because it's a moneymaker for you, right? And as I continue to speak to leaders in the healthcare, they had to go through something themselves to kind of be in this space and realize I want to make an impact. And you being from the technology side, I love it because there's so much that could be added on the technology end. And I ask you, being a leader for so many years, what has been the biggest difference between just leading in the tech world, which you've done for years, and now you're running a business in the senior care? What does that look like? What's the big differences?
So I think I think that's where there is a lot of similarities in that, because leadership is leadership in the end,
Yeah.
right? Um, you always want to be a servant leader, which means, I always say they don't work. My workers don't work for me. I work for them. It's my job to put them in the best position to succeed, right? So
Yeah.
if whether I'm in technology and we have someone that's really strong in something and they enjoy doing that work, so we kind of push them towards that, because we're going to get the best results out of that employee, because they're going to be engaged, they're going to love doing what they're doing, and they're going to fly and innovate and really help us. Same way here in healthcare, working with different personalities, different aides, you realize, who's good at what, which client works well. It's kind of becomes like a matching game between personalities. You start seeing it, and it's something that when I walked into this industry, the first thing that everyone tells me is like scheduling is so hard. Scheduling is the hardest thing. And from my technology side, I walk in and I say, well, why? I've written scheduling algorithms for years. I can do that in my sleep. Why would scheduling be the challenging part here, right? Because here's where what you learn quickly in the industry is that, well, now you're dealing with humans. You're not dealing with a machine, and humans are complex, and humans have different needs, and humans have different personalities, and having that human touch between, yes, there's a schedule, a person available at this time to do this schedule, that's fine, very clinical, but now you're missing that human element where, okay, well, this person likes to have someone that pampers them and talks to them and keeps them company, and this caregiver isn't really that outgoing, but they're very good at what they do, but they're not that right fit. So you have to learn those things. And then, so when we start thinking about technological solutions and stuff like that, it really gets interesting and intriguing, because now you have to be able to not only do the clinical parts of person A can do this schedule with this client at these times, but also now we have to start being a little bit more intuitive about those solutions and saying, well, this caregiver, these are their traits, and this is what they do well, and this is how we can put them in best position for them to succeed, is by pairing them with a client that needs those kind of those strengths to help them. And when you do that, you realize very early on, like the magic that can happen. I have this one caregiver that's been with she was a very difficult client at the beginning, and they've gotten to the point now where they're best friends, and they've bonded to this level that it's great to see, because personality wise, she needs this type of caregiver, and we were able to
Hmm.
find that match, and it's a beautiful match. And in the end, like we said, when leadership is leadership, when you put someone in a position to succeed and they do well, and that is motivation for them, right? Everyone wants to do well in what they do, no matter what
Absolutely.
it is. Everyone wants the ones that don't, they get exposed very quickly in any any industry. You can filter those out very quickly. But everyone wants to do well. And when you put them in a situation where they can do what they love to do and succeed at it, they're that helps build the motivation and that helps drive that. So from a leadership standpoint, that's there isn't a lot of differences other than, kind of understanding the nuances between the different businesses. And I think that's where you see like a lot of good leaders are just good leaders and they succeed in no matter what business you put them in because they understand that there's a human element to this. And if you treat people with respect and you put people in a position where they can succeed and grow, you're doing what you need to do for them, and in return you're getting the best of them back to you.
You hit it right on the head. If you're a leader, you're good wherever you go. And a lot of times people are just not good leaders. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest. But like you mentioned, you go from the technology world to the healthcare. Nothing's changed. They all have challenges,
Yep.
right? And it's how do I use my creativity, my leadership to enhance others around me? You talked about when you find that person, it's a great fit. It all works. I always tell people it's like dating. You got to go find that right person to put in that right place. And the best thing I heard recently was, and also make sure you're not duplicating yourself, because then you're also not growing,
Yep.
right? You're also not challenging yourself to learn, because you always want to put someone in a place where they're just as good or even better than you. And I love that. If you can snap your fingers and instantly fix one thing in the healthcare space, what would it actually be? And if you could tell us why.
I'm going to avoid going down a path of anything that could be considered political, but I do see, like, I look at other countries and I see their universal healthcare systems and I see that they support and cover um, a lot of things for their constituents and and their people, and um, they feel supported. They feel like they don't have to worry about the things we have to worry about in the U.S. That being said, I think we have to snap our fingers and get more government support for the elderly. I mean, this is a problem. This is going to be a train that we're going to see coming. And if we don't do anything about it, it's going to be very dangerous for a lot of our seniors as they age and age in place. We see so many gaps in care right now with the way that healthcare is administered in the United States. We see gaps when someone's in the hospital and they get discharged, and there's this handoff that never goes smoothly. um, and when that handoff occurs, if that elderly person is having cognitive issues or confusion or just overwhelmed, they can't handle it by themselves. It's too much to
Hmm.
ask someone to who's been in a hospital, who had some serious condition that they got better and now they're being discharged, but now they have to worry about OT, PT, nurses, nursing aides, your own, and all of this, and what's covered by insurance,
Yep.
what's not covered by insurance, and also healing and getting better. And it's a lot. It's a lot for a lot of
Absolutely.
our elderly to deal with, and those gaps. There's so many gaps in care around the care continuum that we need creative solutions around. And right now, there's not enough money being put into those areas to help. Um, and I think that's going to be the big thing is how are we going to support all of these people going into their older years and make sure that they stay safe and they can age in place or age in a place that they want to be,
Yeah.
and still be financially able to support it. So, the financial part of it is a huge factor. I did some research, so I want to bring some of my numbers with me, right? So, I'll just throw this out there, right? Like the cost of home care right now, if someone were to get 20 hours a week, and that's minimal if you think about it, that's 4 hours a day, that's less than 4 hours a day if you're doing 7 days a week, or five days a week, 4 hours a day, which is not enough time for someone,
Absolutely.
basically only takes care of a couple of tasks, maybe some breakfast, etc. That's going to cost someone $37,000 a year. $37,000 a year on average. In I'm using New Jersey numbers because that's where I'm at. It's a little higher here than it would be elsewhere. But the median income for people over 65 in 2022 was $29,000. So, like, it's not even remotely
I don't
affordable.
know.
Not even
Yeah.
remotely affordable for the average elderly person. Um, Now, if you throw Medicaid in some states, covers some of it. In New Jersey, they cover a small part of it. With Medicare in New Jersey, that number goes to 18,000. But still, if your median income was 24,000, you still can't afford it. There's no way to afford this extra level of care. And all the studies, and this is why health insurance companies need to get on board as well and start supporting this more. All studies show that patients have better outcomes at home. When you send someone home with the right support, they have better outcomes. They're less likely to get readmitted, which costs tons of money to healthcare systems. And it helps solve problems by keeping people out of the hospital. It's preventative care that we don't do a good job of in the United States. So that if I could snap my fingers, that's the problem I would try to solve.
I love it, man. I love it. I just love that someone like yourself has come from the tech world. And do you actually have any advice for those that are in the tech business and want to make a meaningful impact in the healthcare or nonprofit space? Do you have any advice for those individuals? Because I think it is a two that could merge to really be something successful.
Yeah,
What is your advice to that individual?
yeah. I think look in in your early years, you're gonna figure out what's good for you, and you're gonna figure out where you want to spend your time and where and what kind of career you want to have. And when you do figure that out, then target those companies that are doing good things that are in those spaces, um, and reach out to people through LinkedIn. Reach out to people through the company spaces. Do all the things that you would normally do to try to get recruited by a company of your choice, and kind of focus on that because in the end the skill sets are that's the beauty about technology, right? No matter what, every business in the world requires some level of technology, and most of the technology skills are the same no matter what business you're in. So your skills are transferable. So it's really about learning the domain of what you want to go into, and I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of us tech folks um, don't do enough of in any business is really go into it and not only learn the technology sides of it. That's the fun stuff, right? You're playing with code, you're building cool things, but learn the business side of it. Learn the business side. Be understanding what you're building and why you're building it, and how it makes an impact, and how you can make a greater impact if you do certain things. If you learn the business behind it and you learn the problems you're really trying to solve, that becomes invaluable to the organizations that are in those spaces building those things. Because if I were to differentiate between two candidates and one understands my business and is just as good technically as the one that doesn't, I'm going to hire the one that understands my business. I mean, that's going to help me and help him in the future. So I think that's definitely the way to go. And I also think, one of the things and this is going to be me shooting off entrepreneurship. One of the things we don't do in the United States enough is push people towards entrepreneurship. We say everyone, hey, you got to go to college, you get a
Yeah.
degree, you work, 30 years, you have your 401k, it's great. But that's great if that's the path you want to go on. A lot of people feel unfulfilled in that path because you become a number, and some of the big companies are a number, and you can get cut, and we see it all the time with all the job cuts going around. And I
Yeah.
think being able to kind of take a step back and set goals if this is something you want to do, you have to start early in your career and start saying, okay, how do I get there? Like, what do I need to get there? How much money would I need to put away to be able to start a business and do things like that? So I do think there are a number of ways to get involved into this space, and I think both paths are very meaningful and viable.
Yep. I um I do agree on the entrepreneurship, and I'm actually in a space now where, instead of just giving scholarships for someone to go off to a school, I'm asking the school, why are we not handing out scholarship for business license? Because not everyone's going to go to school. I think we have more entrepreneurs, at least for me, I'm seeing more entrepreneurs now, especially younger than ever. But I'm also seeing, as you mentioned, those that spent 30 years in the corporate world and all of a sudden realize, like, wait a minute, like math is not mathing. You talked about a little bit the math, right? It's just not mathing. Like, even if I was to retire with $1 million at 65, does that actually allow me to live for the rest of my life?
Right.
A lot of times it doesn't, but you're caught up into the I would say the rat race is what we like to call it, right?
Yep.
So now I love that you say that, man. And going back to great leadership, great leaders see the problem and they're trying to find a solution. So I'm definitely seeing it already, and I'm in these schools asking myself, how can we make that difference? Because I was a person I went to school by choice, but I've always felt school wasn't for me. But I made a successful career owning businesses, high, positions in the corporate world. I just feel like some people do need that opportunity to just be creative as well. I love that. I love that you mentioned that. If we can actually look fast forward 5 years, right? Where do you see a place at home and your role in it? Right now, you're a franchise owner alongside your wife.
Mhm.
Pretty cool that you guys are able to do this together, but you're also playing CTO for multiple companies. I
Mhm.
want to say playing because it's not like we're at the game here, but you're also a CTO for other companies. So, what does that look like for the next 5 years?
I think what in what me and my wife wanted. My wife comes from technology as well, and when we went into this, we one of the things when you're in technology and you're building and in the startup world where we spent a lot of our time is you want to have an approach to a business. You have to learn a business pretty you, deeply to really build the right tools to help that business. So where we're going with this is we're running this business, we're growing the business, and that's been super exciting, really fun, tons of hard work. I mean, we're having right now, this is one of our busiest weeks we've had. Our growth is at the highest it's been since we started. So we're doing really well, and it's exciting and it's fun. But where we see ourselves in 5 years is continuing to grow the business, but then kind of stepping out of the operator role, hiring people to kind of do the job of running day-to-day business, and
Hmm.
going on that higher level where we can be strategic and be C-suite, CXOs again, so
Yep.
that you can be so that we can strategize and we can build the right tools technically to help solve some of these problems we're seeing. And then as we build those tools, build the actual products and services around them with technology to help our own business and our franchises as a whole. So that's where we see ourselves going in 5 years, is taking the knowledge we're learning every day, and we have all these problems that we're solving, and we're solving them inefficiently because we have to, right? It's kind of
Hmm.
that MVP mentality when you start talking about technology development, is like you kind of want that minimum viable product. So we're doing that. We're doing a lot of that stuff here, um, by just making sure we are covering our bases. Obviously, we're in a regulated industry. A lot of things we're doing is we have to do by the book, but it's some of it is very inefficient, and some of it can be done with technology. But the tools aren't there yet, or the tools that are there are just poor. So we want to really get to the point where now that we understand it, we've been in the business. Now we want to build the tools and the software around those tools, and lay the foundation for that technology that we spoke about to really help take this and improve and find ways to not only make it more efficient for us and for business owners and for people to run their business, but also bring down costs so that and drive the ability to scale these processes so we can bring in more people into the umbrella. Because right now, unfortunately, our business is a business for the wealthy. That's really only people that can afford our services right now, and that's a shame. And that's something we personally never wanted to be in. We wanted to
Yeah.
be something that can help everyone, and we're going out of our way in certain ways to help people that and do that. But I think in 5 years we want to have the framework in place and the software and the tools in place that we can help more people and bring more people into the umbrella, so that not only does home care get more efficient and affordable, but can help more people.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, we got to wrap it up here. But before we actually wrap it, it's been a pleasure just having this conversation. You've done phenomenal here. We have a leader at the end of every podcast. One, they got to answer a blind question, and then they have to ask a blind question to the next leader. So it's just a game that we like to play here on the Hard and Hustle podcast.
Mhm.
So they kind of put you in the hot seat. The last leader asked, if you had to start over today, same skills, same experience, but no connections, what's the first move that you would actually make to build a success in senior care?
So the first thing I would do is I would if I didn't have any background in senior care, I would have to actually just get my hands dirty and start working in the industry, and become a CHHA and understand what it's like from that level, to kind of build up the base and say, oh my goodness, what's going on? Like, what does my job entail? How am I helping? What do I have to do? What are the regulations I have to abide by? Um, so I think from that perspective, it's kind of it becomes that learning process and learning and understanding your business. I think no matter what you do, that's the first thing you have to do in a business. Some people come with a lot of business domain knowledge when they jump into something, and they use that domain knowledge to kind of jump in and kind of hit the ground running. In some ways, coming in blind is an advantage, because when you have a lot of domain knowledge, you come in with some preconceived notions of how things are going to be, and you kind of drive your way that way because that's what you thought. But when you come in blind and you're learning from scratch, you're learning some things that you may not have noticed, because you're not doing those roles, or you're not understanding that part of the business, that you get to kind of figure out as you go along. And of course, it's a longer ramp up because you're learning more, but in the end, you end up kind of helping yourself in ways that you may not have anticipated up front by having that strong level domain knowledge. So I do think
I love it.
that would be one thing I would say, if I had to start over from scratch, how I would approach it. I would really try to just get my hands dirty and figure out how this business works.
You took that question like a champ. At first, I thought that you're gonna have to think a little bit, but it's like almost like you had the playbook, bro. You almost had the playbook. Arturo, I really do appreciate your time. Where could people, if they wanted to support the mission, they wanted to find out, even you talked about being a CTO, maybe they wanted to know more about that. Where can people reach you?
You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm there. If I was smart, I would already have my LinkedIn profile set for you guys to send. But I'm Arturo Rosario on LinkedIn. I'm a place at home. So you'll see me if you look me up. And yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. That's the best way to reach out. I have tons of people I talk with on LinkedIn, and that's the best way to get started in that conversation.
I love it. I appreciate it. Guys, if you're still watching, make sure that you guys do follow. Make sure that you guys do subscribe. And make sure that you guys go find Mr. Rosario on LinkedIn for your CTO needs, and check out A Place at Home. Check a little bit more of what they're doing. Thank you so much. It's been Ephraim. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys on the next one. Latest.